Walking through the trailhead gate, you're immediately enveloped by a lush expanse of verdant greenery. Douglas firs and red cedars towering ahead, their bark is a mosaic of greys and browns. Emerald moss clings to their crevices, and their gnarled roots break through the thick layer of pine needles that cover the forest floor like a rustic carpet. The forest in front of you stretches as far as the eye can see, and overhead, the sky is a brilliant blue, streaked with the wispy trails of high-altitude clouds. It's early morning, and patches of sunlight break through the foliage, shimmering on their needles and casting dappled shadows on the trail, dancing with the wind. The air is fragrant with the scent of damp soil and pine. As you deeply breathe in this clean, oxygen-rich air, you can't help but feel a sense of serenity wash over you. You hoist your backpack onto your shoulders, lowering them once the weight is comfortably distributed by the padded straps. Your backpack feels reassuringly heavy, filled with trail essentials like water, a map, a tent, and some high-energy snacks. Your hiking boots, worn from many past adventures, grip the earth as if eager to forge ahead, and you take a moment to flex your toes in them before continuing forward. Each step you take on the well-trodden path is a symphony of crunches as the gravel, twigs, decaying leaves, and other organic material that has contributed to the forest floor over the centuries give way under your hiking boots. The beginning of the trail is relatively flat, allowing you to ease into the hike. As you walk along the winding trails of the verdant forest, your ears pick up the symphony of nature, the gentle rustle of the leaves as the wind blows through them, the melodic cacophony of bird calls from the hidden avian life, and in the distance, the trickling of a nearby stream. Continuing along your path, you eventually emerge onto a wooden bridge that crosses a babbling brook. The water beneath is crystal clear, coursing over a bed of smooth, multicolored stones. Crossing the bridge, the wood slightly creaks under your weight, but it's sturdy and well built, handrails smoothed by the elements and countless hands before yours. As you move forward, the scenery gradually changes, and the trail takes a more sinuous form, weaving through clusters of rhododendrons and sword ferns, their fronds unfurled like green, feathery fingers reaching out, speckled with morning dew. Your hand inadvertently brushes against one, sending a small shower of dew drops into the air. They catch the sunlight as they fall, refracting it into tiny rainbows that vanish almost as quickly as they appeared. This beautiful moment compels you to drop your shoulders in relaxation. As you navigate the terrain, your boots press into the soft, damp earth, leaving a temporary imprint on the moss-covered ground. And then you spot something out of the ordinary amidst the ferns, a burst of colors contrasting with the monochromatic sea of green. Intrigued, you venture off the path for a closer look, taking deep breaths of the fresh forest air as you do. Pushing aside the fronds, you discover a patch of wild blue huckleberries and a smattering of red salmonberries, their juicy orange and pink hues almost glowing against the backdrop of earth and foliage. Beside them, you recognize the distinct silhouette of morel mushrooms. Their honeycomb caps and elongated stems signify not only their edibility, but also their culinary value. You crouch down to pluck a handful of berries and mushrooms, careful to only pick what you can consume and leaving plenty for the forest creatures and future growth. You store the mushrooms in a container, but can't resist the allure of the berries. Popping them into your mouth, their flavor is intense and natural. Each small, round berry bursts with sweet juice, your jaw naturally unclenching. Feeling grateful for this unexpected but welcome provision, you reach for your backpack and unzip the side pocket to retrieve your water bottle. Unscrewing the cap, you take a long gulp, the cool water serving as the perfect chaser to the berries. The juxtaposition between the store-bought purity of the water and the natural complexity of the wild berries leads to a moment of reflection. You can't help but think of the complex web of life that supports this rich biodiversity, from the mycorrhizal networks underground to the birds and bees that act as agents of pollination above. The thought prompts you to observe your surroundings even more closely. Your brow softens as your eyes now pick up details you initially missed. Leaves with tiny nibble marks, the ivy tendrils clinging to tree trunks, and the almost imperceptible movement of spiders weaving their delicate designs between grass and twigs. Movement in your periphery lures your gaze toward the fluttering of wings. A group of violet and green swallows dance through the air, apparently engaged in what seems to be a game of tag, darting through the branches with remarkable agility. They swoop and ascend with a fluidity that evokes thoughts of aerial ballet, their iridescent feathers catching the light in a way that makes them seem to shimmer and shift in color with each turn and dive. In the distance, a flash of red catches your attention, and you reach into your pack for your pair of binoculars. Raising them to your eyes, you scan the foliage and eventually track down a pileated woodpecker, its chisel-like beak striking rhythmically against a rotting tree trunk in search of insects. You note the precision of its movements, the power in its wings, and the stark white stripes that contrast with its dark plumage. Continuing down the trail, it now descends, becoming a bit steeper, indicating the nearing of water. The terrain changes, soil becoming sandier, and air become cooler with the mist that rises from vigorous, moving water. With each step, the constant and soothing white noise of the approaching river grows louder, and your shoulders relax in anticipation. The dense woodland thins, revealing a wide river stretching out before you. The surface of the water is crystal clear, sunlight sparkling across it, creating a myriad of tiny gems that flicker and fade with the flow of water. This serene sight encourages you to release your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Making your way across the riverbank, you set down your backpack on a mix of smooth pebbles and fine sand and retrieve your origami kayak. You begin the process of unfolding it, its form gradually taking shape, locking into place with satisfying clicks of built-in supports. You can't help but admire the ingenuity of its design, a vessel that can be carried on one's back, yet sturdy enough to navigate these pristine, racing waters. Once the kayak is fully expanded and its integrity checked, you gently slide it into the river. It displaces the water with barely a ripple, the clear surface closing smoothly around its hull. You secure your backpack in the storage compartment and step into the kayak, feeling it bob slightly as it adjusts to your weight. You flex and stretch your toes in your boots before settling them comfortably against the foot pegs. Picking up the paddle, you push away from the shore, the motion sending you gliding effortlessly over the water's surface. From this new perspective, you gaze into the river's depths. The clarity of the water is astounding, allowing you to peer into an underwater realm. You can see trout gliding effortlessly against the current, their spotted skins a natural camouflage against the riverbed. Schools of smaller fish dart in perfect unison, their silvery scales catching the sunlight. Aquatic plants sway gently, their leaves parting for the fish that navigate through them. Watching this rhythmic aquatic dance, you take another deep breath. Paddle in hand, you begin your aquatic journey. The river responds to your efforts, its surface breaking into a series of small, lively ripples around you. The once still reflections of the surrounding forest are replaced by a kaleidoscope of greens and blues, merging into an impressionistic painting of your dynamic interaction with the elements. You feel an instant wave of relaxation that encourages you to lower your shoulders. With the kayak now a natural extension of your will, you decide to test the capabilities of both your vessel and yourself. Gripping the paddle tightly with both hands, you lower your shoulders and begin to paddle with vigor, your muscles feeling the rush of exertion as each stroke propels you forward with surprising speed. The kayak slices through the river like an arrow as the resistance of water against the paddle grounds you in the moment. Surging forward, the banks of the river become a blur as you focus on the power of your own movements and the strength in your arms and shoulders as they work in harmony. The serene riverbank becomes a blur of colors and textures. The greens of the trees meld with the browns and grays of the rocks, while the bright flecks of wildflowers flash past like static bursts of fireworks. The air rushes past your ears, its coolness against your skin a refreshing contrast to the exertion of paddling. Water sprays up in arcs as your paddle cuts in and out of the river, the droplets catching the sunlight in a shimmering spray. With each breath, you taste the fresh, subtle mineral tang carried by the water's spray. However, as the initial rush wanes, so does your fervor for speed, and you ease your pace, allowing the kayak to drift. The world comes back into focus, the blurred lines sharpening into distinct forms and shapes. You let the paddle rest across the kayak, and your hands trail through the cool water, creating ripples that disturb the mirrored sky below. The river seems to be in no hurry to get anywhere, and neither are you, floating along in a peaceful reverie. Now, moving leisurely, you take in the scenery that you had previously rushed by. Your gaze is drawn to the towering trees that line the riverbank, their reflections in the water elongated and wavy. The sunlight filters through the leaves in patterns of lace, casting a kaleidoscope of light and shadow upon the water. Dragonflies dart and hover above the surface, their wings iridescent in the light. Reflections on the water are almost perfect in their stillness, the only disruptions coming from the occasional falling leaf, creating circular ripples that spread out across the surface. As you relax, flexing and stretching your toes, you notice another disturbance in the water as you're gradually approaching a group of otters. The otters play in the dappled sunlight of an overhanging tree, their wet fur glistening with beads of water, capturing miniature reflections of the world around them as they twist and turn. Their sleek bodies are perfectly adapted to this aquatic life, and you can see their powerful, webbed hind feet propel them with ease. Their chirps and whistles add a new layer to the forest's symphony. Seemingly intrigued by the presence of your kayak, the otters converge around you, their slick bodies weaving effortlessly through the water. They come close, close enough that you can see the individual whiskers on their snouts and the drops of water that bead on their fur. As they approach, you can't resist engaging with these playful denizens of the river. You reach out a hand, fingers skimming the surface, sending ripples out to meet their curious snouts. They seem to understand this gesture as an invitation to play and respond with gusto, darting back and forth, nudging the ripples you've created, their own version of aquatic tag. As you play along, the kayak continues to drift with the current, bringing you around a lazy river bend. Your jaw unclenches, and your gaze naturally travels upward, drawn by a sensation of vastness, and that's when you see the mountain up ahead. The slopes of the mountain are a symphony of textures and hues, the greens of its forests dark and deep, suggesting the richness of the life that thrives within. The peak vanishes into a halo of clouds, shrouding it in the misty embrace of the higher elevation's weather. Despite the clouds obscuring its peak, you recognize the silhouette. Its unmistakable contours match the map you've studied. This mountain is your destination. With a respectful nod to your furry companions, you grasp the paddle once more and begin to navigate the kayak away from the riverbank. As you begin paddling away, they do not disperse. Instead, they swim alongside the kayak, their sleek forms slicing through the water effortlessly, diving between one another as if tracing the path of a braid in the water. You find yourself smiling, releasing any tension in your jaw, paddling just enough to keep pace with their aquatic antics. As the mountain looms ever closer, the otters peel away one by one, each diving with a final flick of the tail, disappearing beneath the mirror-like surface to resume their own wild lives. You turn your attention forward and paddle with renewed intention toward the mountain that now dominates your field of vision. With each movement forward, its base draws nearer, growing in size and detail. Arriving at the foot of the mountain, you guide your kayak toward a small inlet, a natural dock fringed with smooth pebbles and lined with tufts of grass that sway at the water's edge. With a final paddle stroke, you glide onto the shore, the hull of the kayak grating softly against the gravel. You step out, your legs welcome its firmness after the fluid motion of the river. With practiced ease, you pull the kayak fully ashore, and within minutes, you fold it back into its compact form. After securing your kayak, you hoist your backpack over your shoulders, feeling its familiar weight settle against your back, lowering your shoulders. As you stand at the base of the mountain, you look up, craning your neck to take in the sheer size of it. It rises up like a colossal wave poised to break, its peak still veiled in clouds, its mystery preserved. The slope at the mountain's base is kind, a welcome start to your ascent, and the path is clear, marked by the passage of countless others who have come this way in search of the beauty that lies above. Making your way down the trail, the sounds of the river fade, replaced by the rustle of leaves and the occasional snap of a twig underfoot. Looking up through the canopy, the sky is a patchwork of blue glimpsed through the branches. Birds continue their serenades, but these mountain songs are different, sparse, yet clear, as if the very altitude sharpens their notes. You deeply breathe in the fresh alpine air. Your hands brush against the rough bark of the trees as you navigate the trail. The trees here are old growth, their texture a reminder of the age and life of the forest around you. The bark is rough and grooved, each crevice home to lichens and moss that soften the harsh lines of time. A rustling in the underbrush draws your attention, and you come to a halt, watching as a family of deer emerge into a small clearing. There's a moment of stillness, a collective pause in the world as their large, dark eyes meet yours. The deer, a doe and two fawns, regard you with a wariness, their elegant silhouettes etched against the understory. You take deep, silent breaths, not wanting to disturb their presence. Their coats are a blend of browns and whites, patterns that render them almost invisible in the dappled sunlight. Their movements are graceful, the embodiment of the mountain's quiet majesty. But the encounter is brief. Sensing your presence, the deer bound away, their white tails flicking like flags as they disappear into the denser forest. Their hooves barely making a sound as they retreat into the safety of the trees. Emboldened by the fleeting encounter with the deer and reminded of the serendipity that often accompanies the untrodden path, you decide to veer off the marked trail. The underbrush here is thicker, a lush barrier that speaks of a path less disturbed. You push through, the branches occasionally snagging on your clothing, leaving behind the faintest traces of sap that cling to your fingers, nature's subtle reminder of your intrusion. The terrain is uneven, and your toes flex and curl, a mosaic of rock and root demanding your attention with every step. The air is heavy with the scent of damp moss and the musty, rich perfume of the earth that grows stronger in the dense woodland. The sound of water is present here too, but it's different, more focused, a concentrated rush that suggests a gathering momentum. As you push past the last curtain of leaves, the ground falls away, and you find yourself on the brink of a clearing, beholding the grand spectacle of a cascading waterfall. The fall's origins are hidden, fed by some unseen stream that has journeyed down the mountainside. It carves its way through the rock, a sculptor chiseling away to reveal the underlying geology, a blend of basalt and granite that glitters with mica and quartz when touched by sunlight. The water's relentless energy is mesmerizing, its roar a constant that drowns out all other sound, creating an enclave of sound and movement. As you watch, you can almost feel the weight of the day's worries fall away, lowering your shoulders and leaving you heavy with relaxation. Surrounding the pool, the vegetation is vibrant, invigorated by the presence of the waterfall. Ferns unfurl their green fronds, and the leaves of nearby trees are glossed with a spray, giving them a polished sheen. Compelled by the pristine beauty of the waterfall and the inviting clarity of the pool, you resolve to indulge in a swim. You carefully remove your gear, securing it away from the edge, where the gentle mist of the waterfall can't reach. Stepping towards the edge of the pool, you dip a toe into the water, the initial chill promising refreshment from the exertion of the hike. You take a breath and step further into the water, feeling it embrace your ankles, then your knees, until you stand waist-deep in the mountain's basin. The soft pebbles underfoot encourage you to flex and stretch your toes. The pool is deeper than it first appeared, its bottom dropping away just a few strides from the edge. With a final look at the cascading water, you plunge forward, swimming with steady strokes towards the waterfall. As you swim, the underwater world is a blur of refracted light and shadow, a kaleidoscope of the world above, seen through the lens of the pool's gentle undulations. The water here is mineral-rich and clean, washing over you as you swim. Reaching the waterfall, you find the strength of the water's descent is buffered by distance, allowing you to swim behind the liquid curtain. You emerge from the water on its hidden side, taking a few deep breaths of the cool, mist-laden air. The sound here is overwhelming, a constant roar that drowns out all else. From this hidden vantage point, you look out at the forest through the curtain of water. The view is distorted by the moving liquid glass, a shifting lens that changes the shape and color of the world outside. The rock face behind the falls is worn smooth in places by the never-ending caress of water. In others, it's rugged, with moss and hardy plants clinging to the moisture-rich environment. Small rivulets have formed where the rock diverts the flow, creating miniature watercourses that glisten like silver threads as they traverse the uneven terrain of the cliff face. The ferns here are especially lush, their fronds heavy with droplets, thriving in the perpetual humidity. As you linger in the secluded space behind the waterfall, observing the interplay of light and shadow, a splash of unexpected color catches your eye. Nestled among the verdant ferns and the moss-laden rock, there is an anomaly, a flower whose rarity is surpassed only by its beauty. You recognize the flower immediately as the rare Pacific trillium, its three-petaled bloom a stark red against the greens and browns of its moist environment. The petals curl elegantly inward, converging at the center to reveal a bright white stamen. The trillium is a treasure of the high wilderness, seldom found, and even more rarely bloomed. Careful not to touch it, you take a mental snapshot of the flower, a memento of this peaceful encounter, a private event that feels both significant and humbling. You swim back out from behind the curtain, relishing this experience. The cold has seeped into your muscles, but it's an invigorating sensation, one that sharpens your senses and clears your mind. You float on your back for a moment, lowering your shoulders as you stare up at the sky framed by the encircling trees and the rock from which the water spills. Ready to continue your ascent up the mountain, you emerge from the water into a patch of dappled sunlight filtering through the leaves above. You take a towel from your backpack, drying yourself off with quick, efficient pats. The sun, filtered through the high canopy, replaces the cold kiss of the water with a comforting heat, aiding in your body's return to dry warmth and relaxing your face. You unpack a compact map and compass from your bag and unfurl it against a flat stone, weighing down its corners with smaller stones to keep it in place. Your fingers trace the contours and lines, pinpointing your last known location on the trail. You then survey the terrain around you, looking for landmarks that correspond to those on the map. The waterfall, not marked, but likely feeding into the river you followed, gives you a clue. You deduce the general direction of the flow and thus ascertain the direction you must take to return to your intended route. As you make your ascent, a dense fog begins to roll in, wrapping the mountain in mystery. Visibility diminishes, and the environment transforms. The fog refracts the light, creating halos around the occasional sunbeam that pierces the veil. The trees become silhouettes, their forms blurred and mysterious, as if part of a dream. Despite your obscured vision, your compass and well-honed instincts keep you true to your course. You follow the contours of the land, navigating around obstacles, through the thick underbush, and over the tangled roots that crisscross the forest floor. As you make your way higher, with each step, the encompassing mist begins to unravel. A world of vibrant colors blooms into view, the sun emerging like an old friend, casting its warmth upon your face and illuminating the expanse of clear blue sky above. The peak of the mountain, once an obscured ambition, now lies with tangible certainty before you. And leading toward it, nestled within the folds of the landscape, your original trail joins with you once again. Crossing the threshold of the peak, you find yourself in a grassy plateau, protected by the harsh winds by a perimeter of sturdy trees whose twisted forms bear witness to their battle with the elements at this elevation. The ground here is a tapestry of green, dotted with wildflowers that sway in the mountain breeze, their colors vibrant against the soft blades of grass. The tranquility of this place encourages you to naturally release the tension in your tongue, letting it rest gently away from the roof of your mouth. After making your way to a lookout point at the periphery, you are afforded a view that is nothing short of breathtaking. The clouds that had shrouded your ascent now lie below you, a soft white blanket that glows golden with the slowly setting sun, making the summit feel like an island in the sky. The piercing wind batters your face, reminding you to release any tension in your forehead. Through breaks in the clouds, the landscape is a patchwork quilt. Lush forests stretch out like emerald oceans, with the tops of the tallest trees breaking the surface like islands. In one clear patch, a river glints silver as it reflects the sunlight, snaking through the greenery. You take deep breaths of the fresh mountain air, feeling your chest rise and fall with the serenity of the natural world. You unshoulder your backpack, digging out your water bottle and a protein bar, and take a seat on a lichen-covered boulder. Its surface is cool to the touch, even in the relative warmth of the day. As a majestic eagle rides overhead, you take a hard-earned rest and allow yourself a moment to take it all in. The journey, the vista, the sheer magnitude of the world around you. As dusk begins to settle over the plateau, the sky transitions to an artist's palette of fiery oranges and soft pinks, fading to deep purples and indigos. The clouds that skirt the mountain summit catch the fading light, their edges outlined in a brilliant gold. With the realization that night is approaching, you make your way to set up camp for the night, your eyes settling on a flat area cushioned by a thick layer of grass. You retrieve your compact tent from the depths of your backpack, its fabric rustling as you unfold and set it up. The tent poles snap together with a series of clicks, their segments locking into place to create a sturdy frame. With a few more motions, the tent stands firm, the fabric taut against the poles, ready to ward off the night's chill and any dew the dawn may bring. You gather wood from the ground, the pieces dry and brittle, perfect kindling for a fire. The twigs snap crisply in your hands, their sound sharp in the quiet of the evening. Striking a match from your backpack, it doesn't take long for the small fire to start crackling and popping, the flames dancing with a light and warmth that defies the encroaching night, and its smoke carrying the scent of pine that mixes with the cool, earthy evening air. The fire picks up, and you retrieve your portable grill grate from your backpack, an accessory that fits neatly over the flames. You add the mushrooms you found earlier to your pre-prepared foil-wrapped meal and place it directly over the flames. The aroma of grilled vegetables begins to permeate the air, mingling with the smoky perfume of the fire. Steam rises from a fold in the aluminium, visible in the cooling air. As your meal cooks, the last vestiges of the sun's light paint the sky. Streaks of crimson and purple streak across the horizon, the colors vibrant and fleeting as the sun continues its descent. The foil-wrapped meal is turned until each side is marked by the flame, ensuring it's grilled to perfection. The edges of the vegetables charring slightly, adding texture and a hint of bitterness that will complement their natural sweetness. As you are dining on your well-grilled meal, the final strip of sunlight vanishes, leaving the plateau in twilight. The fire is your companion now, its light more pronounced in the dusk, and its warmth more necessary. The flames dance and cast flickering shadows as the night fully claims the sky. Stars begin to prick the canopy of night, one by one, until the Milky Way spills across the firmament. It is a heavenly sight from such an unobscured vantage point. With the onset of night, the sounds of the forest have changed. The daytime chorus of birdsong has given way to the mysterious calls of nocturnal creatures, the hoots of owls, the distant howls of coyotes, and the haunting sighs of the alpine wind as it whispers through the mountain pines. The meal settles warmly in your stomach, a feeling of satisfying fullness that brings with it a sense of contentment and heaviness. As you look to the campfire, its warmth is comforting. Its flames, a chorus of orange, red, and yellow, each leap and flicker an expression of fire's enigmatic life. They create a dance of shadows and light around you as they hungrily devour the wood. Sparks occasionally jump from the flames, riding the updraft until they eventually vanish into the night. You lean back, relaxing your brow as you look up at the sky, now a vast canvas of deep blues and blacks, spattered with the brilliance of countless stars. Constellations reveal themselves, patterns that have guided travelers and dreamers through the ages. You spot the familiar arrangements of Ursa Major and Minor, the warriors of Orion, and the distant cluster of the Pleiades. Shooting stars streak across the firmament, brief and brilliant, gone as soon as they appear, their silent traverse a cause for quiet wishes. As you lie back, absorbed in the celestial performance above, the serene ambience of the plateau subtly shifts. The once clear sky begins to soften with the gauzy spread of clouds. At first, they are thin, mere wisps that drape lightly across the stars, partially veiling the constellations. But gradually, they thicken, knitting together into a more solid mass, until the stars are but memories behind a curtain of cloud. The rain starts gently, a light sprinkling that you can barely feel, the droplets almost evaporating as soon as they touch your skin. The fire sizzles and hisses, protesting against this sudden change. Steam rises, and the once vibrant dance of the fire is tamed, subdued into a smouldering glow as the rain asserts its presence. The aroma of wet earth quickly follows as the ground eagerly drinks in the rain. You breathe it in deeply, embracing this new smell, undeterred by the droplets that land on you. The sound of the rain is soothing, a natural lullaby that fills the plateau. It taps against your gear, patters on the stones of your fire circle, and adds a harmony to the night's quiet symphony. You decide that it's time to retreat to your tent, the fabric rustling softly as you settle inside. You slide inside your sleeping bag, its material a soft cocoon that holds the promise of warmth through the night. You wiggle your toes inside the soft confines of the sleeping bag, stretching and then relaxing them. From inside the tent, you listen to the percussive rhythm of the rain on the fabric above you. It's a secure and comforting sound, a reminder of the shelter's protection against the elements. The rain continues, and you find yourself drifting into a state of relaxation. You relax your brow as the day's experiences blend into the sound of water and the whisper of the wind. As you listen to the rain, your body relaxes, each muscle unwinding as you sink further into the sleeping bag's embrace. Your mind drifts with the sound, thoughts flowing and blending like the water outside. The simple act of listening becomes everything, your entire world narrowing to the confines of the tent and the music of the rainfall. Gradually, the rain's symphony becomes a backdrop to your thoughts, and as fatigue from the day's adventures sets in, your eyelids grow heavy. The sound of the rain, consistent and serene, escorts you towards sleep. The last thing you're aware of is the soft patter of water on the tent, a soothing soundtrack to your dreams as you drift into a peaceful slumber.